adult books with illustrations in them. You could probably go through all the novels in this bookstore and you'd probably find, a dozen out of the thousands of novels that are here. You'd probably find a dozen that have significant illustrated content. And the weird thing is that it wasn't always that way. In the old days, when you bought a Jane Austen novel, you would have illustrations. If you bought Charles Dickens or H.G. Wells, you'd have illustrations. If you bought teen novels, you would definitely have illustrations. It'd be crazy to publish one without. This is from, when I was little, I lived in my parents' attic, and it wasn't like a scary Dickensian attic, it was just like really nice. And they had all the books up there, and they had all these wonderful old, they were called Boys on Adventures. And they were teen books that had really cool illustrations and great captions, like, "What could a lone Earthman do to destroy the tremendous land battleships of Venus?" And so I just took this, it looks weird because I took it with my phone the last time I was visiting my parents' house. But I loved them as, not just as a teenager, but as an adult. As an adult, I've gone back and reread some of those old books, and they were really cool. They were called Boys on Adventures for a reason. They were a strange lack of women in them, and girls. It would be like, there would be, the King of Mars, there's one called The Trip to Mars, and there was the King of Mars and the Prince of Mars, and no indication of where the Prince of Mars had come from. Like, there was just, they were just terrified of female characters, and they were called Boys on Adventures, but obviously I'm going to fix that. So I thought it'd be fun to revisit some of those. In addition, the first time I saw my Uglies book translated into Japanese over here, there turned out to be interiors, like interior pieces of art. Like this is Shay and Tally doing some of their first hoverboard lessons together. And I just thought, wow, that's so cool, and they're so lucky, in Japan to have illustrations in almost every what they call light novels, which includes teen novels and comic novels and, just beach reading, everything like that. We'll start off with a dramatis personae, where they show you all the characters, and then we'll have action scenes, like probably 8, 12, 16 illustrations inside. So I was asking myself, why did that all disappear in the West? We had it 100 years ago, and it still exists in Asia. Why did it go away? So, first of all, let me convey to you how important illustrators used to be. This is from about 100 years ago, and who is that? How do you know that? Because he's got his sleuthing hat on, is otherwise known as a deerstalker cap. Whenever I actually give this presentation in school, they'll say it's a detective hat. Like anybody wearing that hat must be a detective. It's such an iconic part of that character of Sherlock Holmes. But the secret is, if you actually read all the Sherlock Holmes, the Conan Doyle stories, it never mentions a deerstalker cap. That was invented completely by the artist, Sidney Paget, which is why there's an SP down there. Conan Doyle actually lived in the city. He was a city guy, and Holmes was a city guy who actually kind of hated going out in the country. There's some mentions in Hounds of the Baskerville, they're riding out on the train, and Watson is like, oh, the lovely British countryside without all that crime we have to deal with in London. And Holmes is like, the country, just as many crimes happen out here, but there are no clues. So he would never actually, as written by Conan Doyle, he would never have worn such a hat, which is a sort of country hat. But Sidney Paget was a country guy and liked hunting deers and liked putting deerstalker caps on his characters. So he actually formed one of these iconic images. The two things that make Sherlock Holmes Holmes are the crack pipe and the hat. So it's like, not only were illustrations, not only did they exist in all these books, but they were a huge part of the way that we, visualized and memorized and understood these characters, which